Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Anca and I do art and illustration related videos and sometimes tattoo related videos. So if you're into that, make sure you subscribe and check out the other videos on my channel. So today I am testing out a bunch of new art supplies. I got this watercolor pad with cold press sheet in A5. The watercolor pad is from Etchr lab. They were kind enough to send it to me and I thought I would test it out and also try out some new metallic watercolors from Panduro. I got this set as a gift and I thought it would be cool to include it in the video as well. But I will be focusing more on the watercolor pad and talking a bit more about cold pressed paper and hot pressed paper and share with you my opinions on this paper and how it works with watercolors and other mediums. So the first thing I noticed when I opened the pad was the fact that all the sheets are glued together, so you would need an X-Acto knife to remove each sheet as you go along. And here is the watercolor set. It's a metallic set, very similar to the Kuretake Gansai Tambi metallic watercolors in form and in packaging. So it comes with 6 shades. I don't think the shades have names. I tested them out on this watercolor paper and they work perfectly fine. You don't even need that much water to activate them. So overall, the first impression was a good one. They are pretty opaque for what they are, and from what I can see online, they are pretty cheap. So if you're looking for a watercolor set that is metallic, then definitely check Panduro out. I know they have one in gem colors as well. So here I just tested out a bunch of different mediums. I tested out the Art Philosophy watercolor palette on this paper. I also tested out some gouache on it and some Ecoline liquid watercolors and some inks, and did a bunch of tests to see how the color flows on it. So these are all the swatches. I think they look pretty vibrant and pretty good on this paper. And to test it out the way I would test out a regular paper, I decided to make a portrait of our new adopted cat named Suki. So if you follow me on Instagram, you might know that we adopted a kitten. Her name is Suki. She had some issues with her eyes. She's very cute. And yeah, go follow me on Instagram if you want to know all about her story. So back to the watercolor paper. Basically, this paper is a cold pressed paper, and Etchr asked me which one I prefer. I usually prefer cold press. The main difference between cold press and hot press is that cold press paper has a classic texture to it, so you can actually see the texture on the paper, while hot press paper is non-texture and is usually incredibly smooth and a bit more expensive for that reason. The hot press paper is usually designed to handle multiple heavy washes of color, so you wouldn't be able to do so on a Bristol board or any type of smooth paper. If you like smooth paper, then definitely get the hot press one. Etchr has both hot press and cold press, and I'm sure that the hot press is just as fine as this cold pressed one. So another thing with cold pressed paper is that it absorbs more water. I personally really like the texture of watercolor paper. I think it gives the whole illustration more character. So hot press is usually more suited for fine detail, or if you are used to using pencils or fine liners in your illustration, then I would definitely go for that. But in my illustrations, even though I like to mix up mediums a lot, I mainly stick to watercolor and add just a bunch of details on top at the end with some Pentel brush pens or something like that, so the texture doesn't really bother me. I actually really prefer it. Another thing you need to know about cold press paper is that it's not as vibrant or vivid because of the way the light bounces off the texture, and it dries really quickly since it is so absorbent. So I tried to do a usual pet portrait in this video and it worked perfectly fine on this paper. I really enjoyed the process. The colors look really saturated on it and the blends were really easy to do, and the texture is not too obvious. So I would say it's on the smoother side of textured papers. Yeah, it's a paper I would reach for actually. I usually use the Canson watercolor paper, the cold pressed one, but this is very similar to that. So if you like that one, then you will definitely like this one. So overall, I really like this watercolor pad. I think I will be purchasing in the future from them. Price for one is $13.40, which is a very okay price. If you're interested in Etchr and what they have in their store, they have watercolors and mixing palettes and a whole lot of different stuff. And I will leave a link to their website down below and to their Instagram as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on this watercolor paper if you have used it. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.